Hey everyone, it's Tuesday, May 19th. I'm Hirsch Wilson, and here we are. I want to start today with a favorite story. It's from the movie Charlie Wilson's War, starring Tom Hanks. And the story goes like this. There's a 14-year-old boy, and on his birthday he gets a horse. And all the villagers say, "How wonderful, he got a horse." And the Zen master says, "We'll see." 2 years later, while riding the horse, the little boy falls off the horse and breaks his leg. And all the villagers say, "How terrible." And the Zen master says, "We'll see." A couple of years later, there's a war, and all the boys are drafted to fight in the war, except the young lad whose leg is all messed up. And all the villagers say, "How wonderful." And the Zen master says, "We'll see." Well, that's the kind of world we're living in. We wake up in the morning and there's news of a new vaccine, and the only thing you can say is, "We'll see." The economic numbers come out, and all we can say is, "We'll see." As we look at the future from our vantage point of today, all we can really say is, "We'll see." It starts with this premise. We have never been here before. We have two things going on simultaneously. The COVID-19 pandemic and our economy has basically stopped. Now, you can't put those two events into their separate boxes. They're intertwined catastrophes. And the effects of them, the consequences, both intended and unintended, will go on for decades. But the key is, we have never been here before. There's no precedent that we can cull answers from. There is no similar set of events that we can derive wisdom from. We have never been here before. Sure, you can draw parallels to the 1919 flu epidemic. The government early on denied what was happening. They didn't listen to the scientists. One of my favorite posters from Facebook in the last couple of weeks is every horror movie starts out with government officials ignoring scientists. Ironically, during the 1919 flu epidemic, the only tools they had, because it was a highly infectious disease, there were no vaccines, no treatments, so the only tools they had were social distancing and hygiene. Sound familiar? But parallels fall short of helping us to understand what to do next, because we've never been here before. We're in that situation that Marshall McLuhan, the futurist, famously wrote about. You can't drive a car while looking into the rearview mirror. It follows then that everything going forward, every idea proposed by policymakers, is nothing more than a theory or an hypothesis. It's not a criticism, it's just a fact. Thus, what we'll be seeing in the next few months or years are high-stakes experiments against two criteria: how can we save lives, and how can we save livelihoods? I have a couple recommendations to help us get through this period. The first, and I've talked about this before, is like watching any experiment. We need to be comfortable with uncertainty, with not knowing what the outcome is going to be. The Dutch ethnologist Frans de Waal wrote, "In reality, there is no such thing as certainty. There are only people who are certain." We need to adjust to that. We need to be comfortable with that, the fact that one of the dominating factors of our lives going forward is going to be uncertainty. But we can adjust. Think of your ancestors. Think of just the 21st or the 20th century. Both my grandparents were born in 1900. They lived through the First World War, the flu epidemic of 1919, Prohibition. My grandfather was a liquor salesman and later a bootlegger. The Great Depression, the Second World War, the Red Scare, and the Vietnam War. Life is like that. It's uncertain and chaotic. And we're just talking about the first world. Next, I think the appropriate posture for today is to be realistically optimistic. First, we cannot lie to ourselves or hold on to the illusion that this is not going to be difficult and challenging. It's going to be. But we've all gone through difficult times, and we've gotten up and moved forward. I think the other thing I think about all the time is that we're surrounded by people who have gone through tragedy that would knock some of us to our knees. And yet they get up, they move forward, they get on with their lives. They're changed, but they get on with their lives. So can we. We will get through this. It'll be difficult, it'll be challenging, but we will survive. So, final thoughts. Embrace the uncertainty. Come to grips with the fact that we're living through a great experiment. And finally, accept the position of the Zen master about the future, which is, we'll see. Be brave, be kind, follow the science.